Good afternoon. My name is Kim Trent. I'm the Deputy Director for Prosperity here at the Michigan Department of Labor and Economic Opportunity. I want to welcome you to our Poverty Task Force webinar. Today, we're going to be talking about community land trusts, and we have a great speaker whose organization has been very immersed in um, this approach to community building. Um, as you know, the Poverty Task Force was convened by Governor Whitmer in 2019. We've issued two reports of policy recommendations and a third report that was put together by the University of Kansas regarding our state's TANF distribution. Using a lot of the recommendations from the TANF report, we are actually just about to release our most recent or our upcoming Poverty Task Force recommendation report. So stay tuned for that. That will be coming to you soon. In the meantime, we're going to have a conversation today about community land trust. And as I mentioned, we've had three policy reports. And in our first report, we really touted the benefits of establishing community land trusts. And at the time, we only had a handful of CLTs that were operating in the state. And today, I am happy to report that we now have 15 community land trusts operating throughout the state of Michigan. So definitely progress on that front. I want to introduce our speaker who's going to be presenting on CLTs and sharing information on the CLT that's operated by ICCF Community Homes, which is the oldest nonprofit affordable housing provider in Michigan. They have been active in Grand Rapids since 1974 and have engaged more than 2,000 households each year with housing related services while managing more than 600 units of affordable rental housing and providing home ownership education and home purchasing opportunities for hundreds of neighbors. So really impactful organization in Grand Rapids. And Dakota Reel, who's our speaker, is the Senior Real Estate Development Manager for ICCF Community Homes. And she has been working to develop beautiful, sustainable, and affordable housing throughout West Michigan for nearly 9 years. Her work at ICCF has focused on the full spectrum of housing development activities, including fund development, site evaluation and acquisition, community engagement, and project design. And she leads ICCF's Community Homes Land Trust Program and acts as the primary real estate broker for it. And so she is someone who is deeply immersed in the topic of community land trust, and we are very excited to hear what she has to share. So thank you so much, Dakota, for joining us, and I'm going to just turn the program over to you now.
Of course. Thank you so much.
Mhm.
So thanks for having me. I'm super excited to talk about community land trust and some of the amazing things that are happening across the state. So I have a little PowerPoint and we're going to test out this little mini me in the corner to see how it goes. We will have time at the end for questions, but feel free to put them in the chat as they come up. We'd love to chat about it. So awesome. All right. So our kind of outline for today is pretty quick. Introductions of myself, which already happened. Thank you so much. That was a great intro. We're going to review kind of the core basics of the Community Land Trust model and how it's developed across the United States. And then we'll do a deep dive into ICCF's program and kind of the amazing things that we've been able to do with the land trust and highlight some of our awesome homeowners. At the end, we'll have some Q&A. I did include some common legal questions just because they tend to come up, but we'll see if that comes or we have time. And then I will make sure this PowerPoint is available to you all after this. Thank you. All right. So community land trust acquire, own, and steward land permanently for the common good of their communities by providing affordable housing, commercial spaces, community spaces, and even agricultural or green spaces. CLTs across the country can be a combination of these things or focus on one or the other. Many CLTs in the state of Michigan tend to focus on affordable homeownership. Across the country today, there are almost 350 community land trusts fully operating with nearly 45,000 homes among them. Out of those homes, there have been hundreds of thousands of resales and many, many families who have been impacted. So, this is just a quick map of where some of those land trusts are located across the country. And unfortunately, I couldn't find a map without Canada, but they're close by, so it counts. Here in Michigan, we're super excited to share that our community land trust movement has really blossomed. So, like was already said, in 2019, I think there were 3 or 4 community land trusts that were up and operating and had actually sold homes or were getting ready to sell homes. As of today, we have around 15 established communities that are working towards providing affordable homeownership permanently in their communities. There may be other communities that are not listed on this map that are considering it or even working towards establishing a land trust. We hear from about 3 to 4 communities a month saying that they want to get engaged and learn more, which is really exciting. So while CLTs may be new to some of us, they are not new to the United States real estate world. In fact, the roots of the community land trust movement here in the United States were born out of the civil rights era. In about 1964, a large group of Black farmers who were sharecropping in South Georgia were unjustly removed from their land for participating in civil rights meetings. Um, they came together and were able to purchase a parcel of land. But upon doing that, they really started reflecting and asking themselves, how can we ensure that this permanently impacts our families, that it contributes to the overall good of our community, and how can we maybe share in ownership of this space, both the home ownership aspect and the agricultural parts. So, the following groups got together to start discussing this idea of shared community and permanent affordable homeownership. You can see on this list, I tried to honor as many faces and groups as possible, but there were so many well-known organizations who came around the New Communities Incorporated community in South Georgia to help establish the very first American Community Land Trust. Now, that timeline, so after they started talking and after they started exploring this idea, they went and traveled abroad to learn from communities across the world who were already working and establishing community land trust. And they started working together to do that. Now, there was unfortunately some setbacks for the New Communities Incorporated CLT, but we're excited to say that they were at least the first, and many ideas around housing were actually birthed out of that community, including Habitat for Humanity. So, kind of a cool connection. Now, while it started and had its roots in agriculture and in our Black rural communities, that doesn't mean that the impact wasn't recognized by other communities around the country. In fact, the very first urban community that established a CLT was actually Cincinnati, Ohio. So that's a photo over there on the far right. So this model tended to work. We were able to see that it worked in both the rural agricultural settings, but also as a homeownership and rental tool in urban and suburban communities. Since the 1960s and 1970s, this movement has only grown. It's gotten more professionalized. We have advocacy and things like that. And so you'll see these pop up across the country, especially in communities where the threat to affordable housing is imminent and intense, such as here in Michigan. Um, so all CLTs, now they're different, but they tend to have these common elements. So CLTs are meant to serve a specific targeted community. Now, across the country, we see this in a lot of variations. Some CLTs serve entire states. Others will serve a couple counties, and then even some, like here in Detroit, are looking to just serve a couple of blocks or a specific neighborhood with their programming. It really depends on what that CLT sees as a need. Now, the other part is that because they're targeting a specific community and working to build up that community, you'll see that they empower community decision makers in their organizational format. So many CLTs will engage residents, neighbors, and stakeholders, and oftentimes homeowners on their boards of the nonprofit or in other ways to make sure that their developments and programmatic decisions are truly rooted in the specific community that they're serving. There is also always going to be a stewarding for long term element to their vision. So, the goal of CLTs is not to impact the next household or just one individual or family. The goal is to create something that is long standing and has a generation after generation impact. Many of the ways that we do that are tied to our legal ground leases, which we'll talk about in a little bit, or other legal documents that we will sign with a new homeowner. Here in Michigan, the length of that ground lease is actually 89 years. In other states, it can be up to 99, and others are even more. So you can see, even by that one single document, we are looking at impacting for many, many decades. And finally, like I mentioned, here in Michigan, many of our CLTs are looking to provide affordable homeownership opportunities with the land trust model. So, how does a CLT work? So we've kind of talked about their mission and their history, but what does it actually mean to run a land trust? So these are the practical steps. A land trust, after being formed and establishing a board or anything like that, will acquire land with or without property. They will then make improvements to that home or build a home, whatever they want to do. They will then separate legally the land and the home and sell that home to an eligible household. The land trust itself will decide what eligibility means. In some areas of Detroit, they're looking to serve homeowners with 30% of the area median income. Whereas in Mackinac Island, where their target and goal is to get more people to live and work on the island, their AMI range could be all the way up to 200% of the area median income. The goal is, again, you're serving different communities with different needs, and you determine the eligibility. They sell that home at a discounted price from the appraised value, mainly because they do not own the land connected to it. The homeowner then leases the land from the land trust, who retains all legal ownership of that land beneath the home. And then when the homeowner goes to sell their home, they will sell it at an affordable price to the next person, who will then repeat the cycle. So again, some of the big things we said there, just to emphasize. A land trust will separate the legal ownership of the land and the home. Then they will sign a ground lease with that homeowner that grants homeowners the full use of that land. And so they can plant as many trees as they want. They also get the full responsibility of that land. It looks exactly like homeownership in other traditional settings, but that ground lease also highlights some of the important aspects of living in a CLT home, the most important of which is a shared equity model. So CLTs focus on sharing any appreciation or the increase in a home's value from the time of purchase to the time of selling a home between the homeowner and the land trust. We'll talk a little bit more about the math behind that in a little bit. So, what's the same? The homeowner has a mortgage with a bank. They accumulate equity by paying down that mortgage and just the general increase in market value of their home over time. They do pay property taxes on both the land and the home. That is a state regulation. We're working to simplify it, but someone does need to pay both the land and the home taxes, and that responsibility falls on the homeowner. They maintain their own home, they can make improvements to their home, they can will that property to their heirs, and they can sell at any time. So, what's the big difference? Buyers will always purchase their home well below the fair market value. The CLT will retain the ownership of the land beneath the home. They do that by leasing the land to the homeowner via an 89-year ground lease to the owner of the home, typically for a monthly fee. These fees typically will cover things like administrative costs for the land trust and sometimes establishing a capital improvement budget for the home and the homeowner to use. There may be stipulations around the capital improvements that are allowed or renting the home versus it having to be a principal residency. That kind of depends on the land trust in question. And then when the current homeowner is ready to sell, they'll sell to another eligible household at a pre-agreed price. It will still be affordable. It will not be the fair market value of that home, and it grows over time. So why would a homeowner actually want to purchase a home, right? I always like to emphasize that community land trusts simply add an option to the real estate market. They should not be someone's only option. If folks want to purchase a traditional home ownership opportunity, they should do that. This is simply another option in a market that unfortunately is becoming harder and harder for many of our households to even step into. So, the reasons why someone might want to purchase a land trust home, the most logical one is the affordability. These homes will never be the same price as their full fair market value. They will always be lower. Most CLTs will price their homes at about 75 to 50% off the market value. Oftentimes, this comes down to what they are able to get in grant fundings, the buyer's ability to purchase. A lot of things add into what that price is set at. Also, these are much lower risk purchases than a traditional home purchase. And what I mean by that is that CLTs are not going to ask homeowners to waive inspections or provide cash for an appraisal gap. They're not going to rush this decision on any of these homeowners. Homeowners have a lot of time to evaluate these programs to ensure the home is adequate and safe and efficient, and it meets their needs. This is a much lower stakes kind of transaction than some of the transactions we're seeing on the open market today. And then obviously, I hope this is something most people know, but homeownership provides a level of stability that many homeowners are looking for in our tumultuous rental market. So with the risk of being evicted or not evicted, with the risk of rents increasing drastically or having to find a new home because of those rental increases, homeownership and a stable mortgage allow for families and households to lay down roots and feel more comfortable feel that stability in their lives for long term. Many of our CLT homeowners also really love the idea of a community that is available to them and that they're stepping into, right? Whether it be their involvement in our land trust board or their involvement with other homeowners, there are folks going through a very similar homeownership journey as them. They also get support from CLT staff. So CLT staff are able to walk alongside neighbors far beyond the closing table. Many affordable homeownership programs focus on getting uh, our homeowners just to the purchase. That's kind of the main goal and the main target. But if anyone has owned a home before, it's very overwhelming when you walk in the front door. You don't know who to call for contractors if you need work done. Sometimes you don't even get a walkthrough to show you where the emergency water valve are. It's overwhelming. And for some of our households, they're the first homeowners in their families. So they truly feel as though they do not have someone to call. Our CLT staff is able to provide that support long term, be that support system, and help walk alongside them. And then finally, it's been really amazing to see how many of our homeowners truly love the idea that when they sell their home, someone who is in a similar position as they were when they purchased will be the next homeowner. They are, in a sense, giving the same opportunity they were given to the next generation of owners. So now we are going to dig into ICCF's CLT. This is more of a case study. Please be aware that CLTs come in a variety of models with a variety of shared equity calculations, but highlighting ours is one way that I'm able to kind of dig into the nitty gritty. So ICCF started our land trust in 2019. And part of this was born out of the fact that we purchased a large portfolio of homes in 2017 with the support of our community foundations and many philanthropic donors. As part of this purchase, we made the commitment to turn many of those rental single-family standalone homes into homeownership opportunities. It was a great opportunity for us to look back at the nearly 300 homes ICCF had sold at that point and take a look at the data. And what we found was some concerning trends. First, unfortunately, we found that the neighbors who purchased from ICCF were no less susceptible to foreclosure during a crisis like the housing crash than their neighbors. We had almost the same statistics. And part of that was just people, it was a very tumultuous time, and people did not have as much support as could be provided to them in a program like the CLT. We also found that the timelines for families living in ICCF homes that were sold affordably, well under market, were moving out at a considerably quicker pace than the homeowners that had bought just the decades before them. And what was happening was that those homeowners were also selling for a significant amount more than the than what they purchased their home for. That's incredible for them. We don't want to say that that's not what we wanted, but at the same time that they were selling homes very quickly within the first 3 to 5 years of owning, it was getting harder and harder for ICCF to develop that same type of housing, right? There's not as many vacant lots in the city. The number of land bank homes was decreasing. Funding for those homes was getting harder to get, and the cost to build or renovate was skyrocketing. And so we wanted to look at ways that we could impact generations of homeowners while also conserving those philanthropic dollars and using them in the most efficient and effective ways. And that's when we came to the land trust model. Since starting in 2019, I'm really proud to report that we have over 25 homeowners in the program. As of today, we have 14 more under contract. They're getting ready to purchase their homes this September when they are completed. Two more are under construction and ready to be listed in the next week or so. And then we have funding for 10 more homes. So we are growing pretty drastically. The average home sale price in our land trust is $143,000. And just to put that in perspective, the average home sale price in Kent County last year was $361,000. So we're really providing efficient and beautiful homes way below the market value. The average AMI for our homeowners is 54%. An amazing reason why we're able to do this is that we work with programs like Key to Own, which is where we transfer someone's housing voucher into a permanent uh, mortgage payment, or either permanent or for the first 10 years. It's incredible. And part of that is because we are willing to work with programs, go through the inspections, and work with timelines, which allows us to serve neighbors who would otherwise not be able to purchase on the market. The average savings is almost 30% off the appraisal value for all of our homes. Our average family size is about 3.2, but we have sold homes to single individuals all the way up to a family of 13. That family of 13, before purchasing a home that met their occupancy needs, had previously been renting two separate homes. Their mortgage was less than a third of what they were paying every single month for rent. Pretty cool. And then, just as a highlight, here in Grand Rapids, the percentage of Black home ownership versus white home ownership is drastically different. And so when we built this program, we knew we needed to serve our neighbors of color. And we're really proud to report that 75% of our homeowners are people of color. And we really work hard to ensure that our program meets the needs of those in our community. And really, just to show some of these fun photos of our program, the goal and mission of the Land Trust is to create efficient, safe, and beautiful homes for our neighbors to purchase at an affordable price forever, today and tomorrow. We love showing some of the family or pictures of our families, as well as some of the board members, like in the bottom left, who have helped us really make these things possible and also highlight the importance of creating efficient and accessible housing for our neighbors. Here at ICCF, we serve our homeowners in a variety of ways. First, ICCF is a HUD certified housing counseling agency, so we offer introduction for homeownership to all of our neighbors, not just those interested in purchasing our homes. We also provide pre-purchase representation through our brokerage, but also work with agents on the regular MLS to ensure that our homeowners get the right service and the full education about the real estate purchasing process. After closing, ICCF helps all of our buyers understand those essential initial steps of moving into their new home. And then as they go through their entire homeownership journey, we're there to support them and provide them with the resources, update, feedback, and opportunities to ensure that homeownership journey is not only fruitful for them, but meaningful and really holistic. I mentioned some of our housing or our education opportunities. I just wanted an additional time to explain some of that. So, like I mentioned, we provide introduction to homeownership classes, which are HUD certified. So for many neighbors, these are required by some of our lender partners for some of their best first-time homeowner programs. They're also required for programs like VA and FHA loans. We also provide one-on-one housing counseling where our counselors are able to really identify the needs of each household, as well as connect them with the resources that might fit their program or their household the best. Finally, we have individual development accounts that are available to neighbors. That is a 4-to-1 down payment assistance program. Neighbors who are able to save $1,000 over the course of 6 months will automatically be matched with $4,000 from ICCF, so that they can have $5,000 to take to their closing right away. So some of the key elements of our land trust: we charge a $60 ground lease fee every month. Part of this, and part of the reason why it's relatively low, is because we do not pay the taxes on the land, as I mentioned before. Half of this monthly fee goes to support the land trust program, our administrative costs. Mainly, to be super transparent, it goes to pay for our audit. Otherwise, there's not much else it can cover. And then the other half is used by homeowners for home improvements through our repair reserve account, home savings accounts. Uh, ICCF establishes the accounts when we sell each home. We put $1,000 in on the day they close, and those homeowners can use those dollars whenever they make an improvement to their home that will increase the value. So this can't be used for regular home maintenance or some basic aesthetic changes. It's really meant to help them with things that might cost a significant amount. We do also require that our homeowners use these homes as their primary residence. And we also do require approval on some construction activities. We also do not allow certain activities. The one example I use is an in-ground pool. For us, our focus is on maintaining homeowner affordability long-term, not just for the household living there. And in case you've ever not had to maintain a swimming pool or didn't know, they're extremely expensive to maintain. So even if the household living in that home could afford to install an in-ground pool and maintain it, you can't guarantee that the next household could as well. So, yeah. All right, so our shared equity approach, we're going to go through some basic middle school math to kind of break it down. So our resale formula is called an appraisal-based resale. What happens is when a homeowner goes to sell a home, we pull a full appraisal on that property, which the land trust pays for. And then that homeowner will sell their home for 100% of their original investment, plus 25% of any appreciation the home has seen during their ownership. So the remaining 75% of the increase or the appreciation, it simply stays with the home. So it's kind of an invisible subsidy for that next homeowner. Here's the process in motion. So the buyer becomes eligible and purchases the home from the land trust. The original purchase or full market value of that home is $200,000 right here at the bottom. But our subsidy to that person is 25%. So we sell it to them for $150,000. A couple of years later, the buyer informs the land trust that they would like to sell, and we order a new appraisal. That same home comes back as worth $300,000. So to find out the change in value, we subtract that original full market value amount to get the appreciation of $100,000. So, like I mentioned, the home buyer will get 25% of that value to add on to their original purchase price. In this example, 25% of $100,000 is $25,000. So they take their original purchase price of $150,000, add $25,000 on top of it, and the new sales price to the next homeowner is going to be $175,000. So some important notes. CLTs only share appreciation. We do not share depreciation. This means that the buyer will almost always, and I say almost because if there is a crash that decreases someone's house value by more than 25%, that would be significant. But they will almost always receive 100% of their original investment. This means we create safeguards to prevent from foreclosure in many ways, right? That's a 25% buffer that homeowners are not going to be impacted by negative market changes. Less than 1% of land trust homes sold have ever been foreclosed on, not only because of this financial safeguard, but also because the program has so many steps where we can step in to help a household out, whether it be by providing counseling or the right of first refusal, essentially purchasing that home to remove that family or household from experiencing a foreclosure. So many opportunities for us to step in and support them. In Michigan, CLT nonprofit taxes are cheaper. So if the buyer is under 80% AMI, their taxes will be based on the amount of their first mortgage. So not even the sales price, but especially not the assessed value of that home. That's a direct benefit of purchasing from a nonprofit housing affordable or housing provider. And then I just put a little code here where you can estimate your tax savings. So I saw some questions in the chat. I don't have it up. I'm so sorry. But I did see some questions about taxes and why that happens. So just to be super transparent, land trusts are charged two tax bills, one for the land and one for the home and one for the land. The buyer has to pay both. Mainly, this is because in the state of Michigan, there's no way for us to really confirm or solidify before a home sale how much those land taxes will be. We are working, the Michigan CLT Coalition is working to try and encourage our representatives to help us address this issue, to either standardize the way that CLT homes and land are assessed and or provide some tax benefits for land trust homeowners. Like I mentioned, if a buyer earns at or below 80% AMI, they do qualify for lower taxes. The taxes for these households are again set at a buyer's first mortgage price and not the assessed value. Buyers will receive 100% PRE on their home. And at this time, without that new legislation I've mentioned, the land is at 0%. So just as a couple reminders, we use appraisals in the land trust two main ways. The first is to establish the original sales price of the home, and then we pull another one at the resale amount. When homeowners purchase their homes, the legal requirement through lending is that they also get an appraisal through their lender. Mainly this is because when the CLT purchases an appraisal, that's an appraisal we own and it influences how we price things. When a lender pulls an appraisal, it's essentially to justify the mortgage that they're selling on that home. And then also, one of the big questions is how could this impact the other home sales in the area? And why is that important and all that stuff? We just want to emphasize that these are very different home transactions. So they should not be used in comparisons of other home sales. If a CLT home is shown on an appraisal for a traditional single family home, the buyer and or the seller of that traditional home can contest the use of a land trust to get it taken out. But also we provide a benefit in that if a CLT home is the only comparable sale in the area, we recommend always reaching out to the land trust as they will have that full fair market appraisal available for that homeowner to reference. So just a couple ways. We'll skip this one for now. One of the big questions I get a lot is who would mortgage a CLT home in the state of Michigan? And these are just the West Michigan providers. So we are so grateful for the amazing mortgage lender partners that we have throughout the state and their involvement and support for Land Trust. When we sell a home, we give this full list to our homeowners. They're able to select anyone. We're also always willing to work with a new lender if they want to explore it. But almost all of these home lenders have down payment assistance programs. They have incredible first-time homebuyer uh, programs that we can connect them to, and that would apply to the already discounted price of a land trust home. I always just like to mention this. So if you want to learn more, you are welcome to explore our home buyer guide. It's located on the iccf.org website. You can visit iccf.org/CHLT to gain access to that home buyer guide. It again breaks down the community land trust model and all the important things that homeowners really would need to know. I think we'll also skip this. So thank you so much. And I'm excited to hear some of these questions.
That was so interesting, and thank you so much for such a thorough presentation. Um, I have a bunch of questions, but I know that we have a bunch of questions in the chat. So why don't we uh, ask some of those questions, and then if we have time on the end, maybe I'll um, get some of my questions in. So just going back to the chat, let's see, I see a bunch of questions. Let's see. Let me see if I can start from the beginning. Okay. As it relates to equity sharing, what is the typical structure and advantage from the CLT's perspective as it relates to equity?
Yeah. So let me double check. Let me think about how to answer that. So in equity sharing, the main benefit of kind of sharing some of the increased appreciation with homeowners is that we're able to sell those homes at a more affordable rate than what might be coming in uh, the market. We also have seen a trend that when we're able to do that, it actually matches the growth of wages much more closely than versus the home sales prices, which are often influenced by things like in some of our communities here in Michigan, out of state buyers purchasing vacation homes. Also, things like in my neighborhood here in Grand Rapids, we have quite a few neighbors moving from places like New York, Seattle, and Chicago who are able to work virtually, which is
Mm.
incredible, but also they are making money much differently than my neighbors and myself. So I think when we're able to share that equity, share that growth with homeowner after homeowner, we're seeing those home sale prices increase gradually, much more incrementally than if we were to rely on the open market.
Okay. Um, so, we have, and, we talked about earlier that we love doing these webinars, but this is one of the best attended ones we've had in a while.
Oh,
And I
that's
think it's
great.
because there's a lot of interest in this topic. So one of the questions we have in the question and answer queue is, where can you find out about community land trusts that already exist in
Yes.
the areas of people who are on the call?
So, first and foremost, happy to share that information both through our website. So, the Michigan CLT Coalition does have a website. I can try and share that in the chat. We have that map, as I mentioned, but you can also become a member. So if you are interested in joining us so if your community wants to start something or you want to learn more, we are happy to connect you with members in your community, or you can attend our monthly meetings, learn what it means to be a CLT in Michigan. We're also always happy to connect prospective communities with um, consultants or advocacy groups and education opportunities.
That's great. So again, from the perspective of a nonprofit that might be interested or organization that might be interested in establishing a CLT, what does the typical staffing levels for a full-time CLT operation look like, in terms of size? What kind of skill sets do you want to have on your team if you're launching something like that, like the knowledge, the skills, ability to be effective? And how do you fund a staff if you're looking to start a CLT?
So unfortunately, my answer is going to be disappointing, and that's because every CLT is different.
Mhm.
Many CLTs start in a development type setting like ICCF, right? We would have the traditional staffing skills and expertise requirements as those who are developing nonprofit affordable housing in other areas or non CLT settings. However, some CLTs across the country do none of that. They hire developers, they hire fundraisers, and their only sole focus is selling those homes to eligible households and helping support them through their home ownership journey. That can look different for every community, right? Up in Mackinac, I think there is a singular person on their staff who essentially helps answer calls from homeowners, helps kind of connect them to lawyers to start the next step and then move on. Same in Frankfort, Michigan. They have an incredible CLT. Their board is incredibly active and supportive, but they have a single part-time person on their staff. So it really depends on, again, would you like to develop the housing and run a CLT or do that homeownership support? Could you partner with an organization doing homeowner education and income verification? And you're simply there to help support the land trust. The other model that we're seeing pop up quite a bit, not only here in Michigan, but across the Midwest, is municipalities actually setting up these nonprofits so that they have all that expertise, all that skill. They actually have no staff on their land trust. They have someone who coordinates board meetings, and essentially the staff of the city will help that land trust run and make connections.
So,
So, yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Dakota. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off, but
No,
I
no.
do have a question in the chat that kind of builds on what you were just talking about,
Yeah.
municipalities doing it. Um, how have CLTs been received by municipalities, given the fact that um, they seem to maybe reduce local tax revenue?
Yeah.
Has there been any pushback against CLTs for that reason?
I think there's always pushback on any form of affordable housing. So that, just to be right, I think where we see the most pushback, not only by municipalities, but by general people, right, is this is new to them. And so it is confusing, whether it's our neighbors who are scared to be taken advantage of, or municipalities who are scared to be taken advantage of, and or the perspective that they might lose really important tax value. So my answer is, of course, there's always pushback, but there's also ample amounts of support. If you are aware, Grand Rapids is in a housing crisis, right? And we need housing for our neighbors, but we also need affordable housing for our neighbors. And it's become such an issue that this is truly CLTs have become such a bipartisan supported idea. We're seeing not only support from our municipalities trying to help us understand things, connecting us to incredible funding programs and things like that, but when I started talking to real estate agents and fundraisers and philanthropic donors 5 years ago, where some of them were just turning around and saying, no, thank you, we'll look at other programs, we are
Mhm.
seeing a rush of support because of this view for long-term stewardship of permanently affordable homes. Uh, the need has never been more clear. And also the effects of an affordable housing ecosystem that does not focus on long-term affordability, we're also seeing that too, right? There's incredible things that we can do. It's another option, but we have to have a mix of opportunities.
Okay, wow. So I'm looking at the chat and the Q and A queue. There are like a ton of questions. So maybe Dakota, we've got to wrap up. I mean, and they're good questions. So they're questions I want
Yeah,
answers to. So I'm hoping maybe we can share these with you, and there's a way we can maybe send this out, some of the answers that you might have,
absolutely.
because we are supposed to be wrapping up at 2:20 and it's now 2:20. So I don't want to really ask you another questions, although I'm really tempted to do so because, and I love seeing this response from our
Yeah,
audience that it shows me there's a lot of interest in
good.
community land trust. So thank you again so much for joining us today, Dakota. I mean,
Of
that was
course.
really an excellent presentation, very thorough. I think the reason we have so many questions is that you've sparked kind of the
Good.
interest of a lot of our participants. Participants. I also want to thank our participants for joining us for this webinar. We will see you. We usually host. We'll have our next one in September. We're looking at maybe going back to monthly webinars again, but we're going to take off the month of August. But in September, we'll be back with another webinar. I want to thank the team for bringing this webinar together. And once again, thank you for attending. We'll see you again in September.